Amendment 610.
It's moved and seconded we adopt Amendment 610. Remarks. The good gentleman from the 20th, Representative DeBolt.
We think that it's time, instead of telling the taxpayers they have to pay more to reduce carbon in someone else's life, that it's time that we say we as government are willing to put money up to reduce carbon today. And that's why we use this process, and we want to call it the carrot. We use the carrot instead of the stick.
But both sides agree. This is a threat. It's just who should pay for it. This striker means the state pays for it. The underlying bill means that our taxpayers pay for it.
The policy before us does the right thing. It gets us to a clean energy future, and it does so in a way that we can have far greater assurance, not only for us as legislators, but for the people we serve, for the people of Washington State, that we're going to do it in a way that doesn't say to them, hey, we have a good idea here on this floor, and ratepayers, you pay it for us.
Now think about it. The bill in front of you right now will take till 2035 to reduce carbon. Our striker next year could reduce carbon to the tune of 6 to 8 million tons a year. I heard recently that the world ends in 12 years because of carbon, and they put out a 12-year plan. That seems ironic to me, because if I thought the world was ending in 12 years because of carbon, I would put out a 3-year plan. I would actually hit it now. So that's what we're doing here. We are actually doing more portion of removing carbon with this bill, and it removes it immediately. And it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything.
The consequences of our forest fires, while there are those who will claim it's from one thing and one thing only, fail to recognize the failed stewardship of decades that have resulted in this situation and the consequences environmentally every time one of our forests goes up in flames. And that fire just doesn't burn through the forest, it blows through the canopy and it explodes the forest because of our failure.
But what I learned about our fires made it very clear to me that the problem is mismanagement of our forests. And we have an opportunity today to incentivize fixing those problems. And we will solve, or go a lot further towards solving, the issue of carbon in the atmosphere.
But we're paying the price for the fact that government failed and created wrong-headed policy in the name of doing the right thing in the 80s and 90s, and we're paying a dear price today as we try to restore the health of our forest. This striker tackles those kinds of tough issues. The underlying bill doesn't.
The question before the House is the adoption of Amendment 610. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. No. Amendment fails. Engross second substitute the Senate Bill 5116 as amended by the House on third reading and final passage. Remarks.
The reason that we're having so much trouble today, Madam Speaker, is not with the idea of cleaning up the environment. I mean, I personally, I'm literally a Boy Scout. I grew up with the mantra of leaving the outdoors better than you found it. I think we all want better water and air and so on and so forth for our children and the future generations. But the question we keep coming back to, Madam Speaker, is do we use the carrot or do we use the stick? Do we use the carrot and work with our businesses and our industry and our automobile owners and the other folks around us to help make things better? To spend the dollars that our taxpayers are already sending us to help make things better tomorrow than they were today and be able to measure those things? Or do we use the stick and take on all of the risks? The risks of the higher rates, the risk of the higher taxes, the risk of folks literally not being able to pay their heating bill to achieve this goal that we will not be able to measure.
What we're doing today has deep and lasting consequences to the citizens of this state, and the people in my district don't have any place to go. They're invested in this state. They're committed to this state. They have equity in this state, and they have done everything right. They've built an energy economy that cannot be surpassed by anyone. bar none, it is the cleanest, most efficient, most affordable, most stable energy supply in the world. It is first class. Madam Speaker, I beg this body today to vote this policy down.
When we look at this bill in the long run, I hope that it works. I hope that we don't have rolling brownouts. I hope the reliability of the grid is paramount, as it is said to be. I would hate to see Washington State enter into something that makes us less competitive and less effective in the future and puts our resiliency on the line, because that would be detrimental to all of us as we move forward.
I believe we need clean air now. The folks in Eastern Washington are choking on the mismanagement of our forests every summer. Every summer. And we know what the solution is. It's manage our forests. And guess what? 92 million tons of CO2 released in the atmosphere every year in Washington. At least 8 to 10 million tons of that would be reduced if we just did that in 1 year. Not 10 years. In fact, 1 year was 24 million tons. It's the greatest single thing we could do to reduce carbon emissions and clean our air.
There was a path here that we could have come together once again in a bipartisan fashion and achieve the goals that we all seek. But some of the very good positive solutions have been rejected here today, and so for those reasons, I'm a no.
You did satisfy a lot of groups, but we do think we could have done better to satisfy this last group over here by doing something to address forest fires, to address climate now, to make it something that doesn't hurt working families and doesn't make it more expensive to live in Washington tomorrow than it is today.
We know the costs are going to go up as a result of this. We know it is going to have negative effects. We know that. And those who can least afford it are the ones who will be most affected by it. We had a chance to do something different, something new, something bold, something that would be more effective without the negative consequences, and we did not act.